The storm has arrived. In the last episode, we saw Khalid ibn al-Walid break the back of the Persian Empire. He made the East tremble. But while he was dismantling the Sassanids, a different kind of monster was waking up in the West. The Roman Emperor Heraclius was not a fool. He was a veteran general who had just defeated the Persians in a 20-year war. When he heard that an army of barefoot Arabs had taken Damascus and Homs, he did not just get angry. He got terrified. He realized that this was not a raid. This was an extinction event. Heraclius decided to end the Muslim threat once and for all. He emptied his treasury. He stripped every garrison from the borders. He called upon the Armenians, the Slavs, the Franks, the Greeks, and the Christian Arabs. He assembled an army that the world had never seen before. 200,000 soldiers. Some historians say even more. It was a sea of iron that stretched as far as the eye could see. They marched south with priests chanting and crosses raised high. Their goal was simple: crush the Muslims. Wipe them off the map. Do not leave a single one alive to tell the story. The Muslim commanders in Syria, Abu Ubaidah and the others, saw this tidal wave coming. They knew they could not fight it separately. They needed to unite. They withdrew from the conquered cities. They even returned the tax money to the Christians of Homs because they could no longer protect them, and they gathered in a vast plain called Yarmouk. But even united, they were only 40,000 men. 40,000 against 200,000. The odds were 5-1, and the Romans were heavy infantry, fully armored, disciplined, and fighting for their very existence. Panic began to whisper in the hearts of the believers. This was not a battle. This looked like a mass execution. But they had Khalid. Khalid ibn al-Walid had arrived from Iraq after a legendary march through the waterless desert. He looked at the Roman army, and he didn't see a monster. He saw a target. He realized that the Muslim army was disorganized. Different tribes were fighting under different banners. He went to Abu Ubaidah and said, "We cannot fight like this. Today is a day for Allah. We must unite under one command." For the first time, Khalid organized the entire Muslim army into massive regiments, mimicking the Roman formation but keeping the speed of the Arab cavalry. He stood in the center, watching the Roman lines. The Roman commander, Vahan, was confident. He looked at the ragtag army of Muslims and felt pity. He sent a messenger to Khalid. He said, "We know that hunger and poverty have brought you here. If you leave, we will give every man among you 10 gold coins, robes, and food. We will make you rich. Just go back to your desert." Khalid rode out to meet him. He looked Vahan in the eye and said, "It is not hunger that brought us here, but we are a people who drink blood, and we have heard that the blood of the Romans is the sweetest, so we have come to drink it." The negotiations were over. The battle began. It lasted for 6 days. 6 days of the most brutal, grinding warfare in history. On the first day, the champions dueled. The Muslims won the duels, slashing down the Roman commanders to break their morale. But the Roman discipline held. On the second and third days, Vahan unleashed the weight of his army. He pushed the flanks. The pressure was unbearable. The Muslim right wing collapsed. The soldiers began to retreat toward the camp. And this is where the history books tell us something incredible. When the men retreated to the tents, they were met not by comfort, but by stones and tent poles. The women of the Muslims, led by the fierce Hind bint Utbah, came out screaming. They shouted, "Where are you going? Are you running from Allah? Go back and fight." The women shamed the men. They forced them to turn around and plunge back into the death zone. The line held, but barely. By the fourth day, the Muslims were exhausted. They were bleeding. Arrows had rained on them until many lost their eyesight. They called it the Day of Lost Eyes. The Romans felt victory was close. They just needed one more push to break the Muslim spine. But they forgot who was watching them from the hill. Khalid had been saving his energy. He had been saving his elite cavalry, the mobile guard. He saw that the Roman cavalry and infantry had separated slightly. It was a tiny mistake, a crack in the wall. But for the sword of Allah, a crack is all he needs. On the 6th day, Khalid decided to end it. He didn't just want to defend anymore. He ordered a massive counterattack. He took his cavalry and swung around the Roman flank in a giant arc. He hit the Roman cavalry with such violence that they routed completely, fleeing the battlefield and leaving the infantry exposed. Now, the Roman infantry, the 100,000 men of iron, were alone. Khalid surrounded them. He pressed them against the steep ravines of the Yarmouk River. There was only one bridge to escape. The Romans began to panic. They pushed toward the bridge. But Khalid had foreseen this. He had sent a detachment of 500 men the night before to capture that bridge. The trap was snapped shut. The Romans were trapped between the sword of Allah and the deep cliffs of the canyon. Panic turned into madness. The front lines were pushed by the back lines. Men began to fall over the edge of the cliffs, screaming as they plummeted to their deaths in the river below. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was a collapse. The great imperial army, the pride of Heraclius, dissolved. Tens of thousands perished in the canyon. Vahan was killed. The Muslims stood on the plains of Yarmouk, looking at the silence that followed the storm. They had done the impossible. They had destroyed the superpower of the world. When the news reached Heraclius in Antioch, he was broken. He boarded a ship to Constantinople. He looked back at the beautiful land he was leaving and said his famous words, "Farewell, a long farewell to Syria. What an excellent country this is for the enemy." The door to Syria, to Jerusalem, to the world was now open. But in the middle of this massive victory, a messenger arrived from Medina. He was carrying a small, rolled-up letter. He walked through the celebrating soldiers, his face grim. He asked for Khalid. Khalid took the letter. He opened it. It was from the new Caliph, Umar ibn al-Khattab. Abu Bakr had passed away. The letter was short. It relieved Khalid of his command. He was fired. The greatest general in the world, at the moment of his greatest victory, was told to step down. The soldiers were shocked. They waited for Khalid to get angry. They waited for him to refuse. He had the army. He had the power. He could have marched on Medina if he wanted to. But Khalid kissed the letter. He put it on his head. He went to Abu Ubaidah and saluted him. He said, "I do not fight for the sake of Umar. I fight for the Lord of Umar." He took off his commander's helmet and stood in the ranks as a common soldier. He continued to fight, not for glory, not for rank, but for the truth he believed in. This was the Battle of Yarmouk. It changed the geography of the world. It ended the Roman rule in the Middle East forever. But more than that, it showed the world the character of these men. They were giants who walked the earth. They were men who could defeat empires with swords and defeat their own egos with faith. Khalid ibn al-Walid would fight in many more battles, but Yarmouk was his masterpiece. It was the battle where the sword of Allah shined the brightest. But every sword must eventually be sheathed. The time is coming for the warrior to rest. If this story shook you, if it made you feel the weight of history, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. We are building the largest archive of Islamic history on the internet, and we need your help. Comment Sword of Allah below to show your respect for the legend. I will see you in the final episode, the death of the sword.